I'm sorry to hear you've picked up a DWI, but here are some of the things that you need to know before you do anything else. Your license is likely revoked at this point for 30 days. That's true whether you refused or if you blew a .08 or higher. If you blew a .07 or lower, or your case is a blood case, then you might not have a civil revocation. But let's assume that you do and your license is revoked. After 10 days, you're eligible for a limited driving privilege. On the 9th day, you need to file a form called a petition for a limited driving privilege. That form is AOC CVR-9. You can find it on the state's administrative office or the court's website. You need to fill 3 copies of that form out and file it with the clerk. On the 10th day, you come with your privilege. That's form AOC CVR-10. Again, you'll need 3 copies of that. In order to be eligible for a privilege, you have to have signed up for a substance abuse assessment, have enrolled in the recommended treatment. You need to have a DL-123, which is a form you get from your insurance agent showing that you have liability insurance. You need to have a copy of your driving record here in North Carolina, or if you're licensed in another state, a copy of your driving record there. And you need to have $100. If you work outside the hours of Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you need a driving privilege that reflects those additional hours, then you need to have a letter on your work's letterhead, or if you work for yourself, you can do it on your own letterhead, but something that justifies in writing your need to expand your limited driving privilege from Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. to whatever it is you need expanded for. There are certain jobs where you'll need it expanded to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's possible with that kind of documentation. The first thing you should be doing is looking at assessment agencies. There are a multitude here in Wake County. The assessment itself costs, I think, $100. The assessment agency will need to see your test ticket, which is the small rectangular piece of paper that you were given that shows what you blew on the ECIR2, if applicable. They'll want to see a copy of your citation, and they'll want to see your driving record as well. Most of these assessing agencies can pull your driving record for you, but they'll charge you a $8 to $15 fee to do so. Again, after you take your assessment, they'll then recommend some course of treatment. The minimum that they'll recommend is what's called a 16-hour ADETS course, and there really is no statutory maximum for what they might recommend. They may recommend that you go into inpatient treatment, or that you take 90 hours of intensive alcohol classes, or anything in between. Whatever it is that they recommend, if you want to be eligible for the limited driving privilege, then you need to have agreed with their assessment and enrolled in that. These are classes that if you're convicted for DWI, you're going to have to do anyway, and so you may as well get them done on the front end. If your case is triable and you think you have a decent chance of winning, then you can do the assessment and apply for the classes, and after you've talked to an attorney and your attorney says, hey, listen, let's hold off on those until after we see what happens with your trial, or after I've investigated your case a little bit further, then you can certainly do that. Those are the things you need to do to be licensed, or at least get a limited driving privilege for the 11th through the 30th day of your civil revocation. And again, on the 30th day, you pay $100 additional to the court and you get your license back with no restrictions. In addition to that, you can contest the civil revocation if you want to, although I really wouldn't recommend doing that on your own. That's the kind of thing you want to hire an attorney for. You file paperwork with the clerk, and they will set a hearing in DWI court as quickly as possible, and that hearing isn't so much whether or not you're guilty of DWI, it's whether the state has established ground sufficient to have a civil revocation lodged against you. And again, I advise you to lawyer up for that. Really, any of these kind of things, if you're going to get a lawyer for the DWI, it makes sense to go ahead and get one early so that your lawyer can do all of this paperwork for you on the limited driving privilege. These are not the kinds of things where you would have to come to court. Your lawyer can do these kind of things, and you can pick them up in your lawyer's office, or your lawyer can get them to you one way or the other. It's one of those things that kind of adds value for your attorney to do rather than you trying to do it yourself. Again, I'm sorry you got a DWI, but these are some first steps you should consider.